Next day, here comes Hurricane Dennis, right over the top of the same hotel. Everybody has to evacuate town. So the vacation's cut short, we head back to Texas. A few weeks later, here comes Hurricane Katrina, and everybody remembers the devastation that all did to the Gulf Coast. It's fresh on your mind, and then 3 weeks later, here comes Hurricane Rita, the biggest Category 5 storm ever known to man, bearing down on the city of Houston. My dad calls me at 6 in the morning and says, "Hey son, the hurricane's coming. I need to get out of town. Of course, Dad, come on up to Austin." His wife calls me at noon and says, "Tim, your dad just had a heart attack. You need to come to town." I'm driving into town as 2 million people are driving out. I go to see the doctor, and the doctor says, "Son, there's not much we can do. We need to watch this for a couple of days, but right now the hurricane's coming. You need to get out of town." So I get back in the car to drive back to Austin. It's a 3.5-hour drive. It takes 24.5 hours. I get in, I turn on CNN, and I can see the hurricane started to turn. I go to sleep for a few hours. I get back up, turn on the TV. The hurricane turns, completely misses Houston. Not a drop of rain falls on my father's house. And the next day I have to go down and turn the machines off for my father. And it was just that kind of day where that kind of year where everything you can imagine is going wrong, just piles up one thing after the next. And then a few days later, or weeks, I don't remember exactly, but I go out, we have a little lake house west of town. And we have this shed over here kind of off on the side. You guys can relate to it from Arizona. But it's this shed, when you look at it, you say, there's probably snakes in that shed. And I had an incident when I was younger with snakes. I'll shorten the story, but I go over this shed. I'm very careful. I actually remember taking a log, throwing it up against this little metal shack. It's on these railroad timbers, and I kind of walk in. The door's always swung open. You can see through the cracks in the floor. And I walk in. I'm making as much noise as you can possibly imagine. I have these 3 boxes with stuff. I shake the boxes. I move the boxes. I do everything I can. I look in here, and I'm starting to dig for this little electrical plug, and I just hear this. So I kind of stop. I listen, I move real slow, I look around, I don't see anything, so I'm like, come on. So I start digging back in this box, and as soon as I start digging, you hear that unmistakable sound, shh, the rattle goes off, just as loud as it could be, and my head's down in this box, and the rattle's going crazy, and I'm like, okay, just be still, and I'm waiting, and after a few minutes, I start calling my son who's back in the house, Ryan, and he can't hear me, because my head's down in the box. And so I'm sitting there, and if you ever want a good workout, try this and look at all the machines. You don't need all those. Stand like this over with your head in the box. And at some point, I don't know if it's 33 minutes later or something, but your knees will start shaking. And at some point you're doing that, you're trying not to move, the rattle never wavers, and I'm trying to be as still as I can, and now my legs are going. And you just get to that point where you say, I can't stand still anymore. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, this is going to hurt. So I took my hand up and I put it right in front of my head, and I raised up just as slow as I can, and of course, directly in front of me, there's the rattlesnake. The tail's going crazy, that head's right there, and I can't imagine it would be any more haunting than looking down the barrel of a loaded gun, but you're staring right at that snake, and they just kind of dance around, the tongue comes out, the eyes never blink, and you're just sitting there saying, oh, this is really going to be bad. And I remember at the moment thinking, God, this just isn't right. This is too much. I can't take this. And I'm looking and I'm waiting. And then I'm thinking, that's like 4 feet. They can't jump that far, right? And I'm kind of sitting there and I'm thinking, but last time I was in this situation, there was actually 2 snakes that were mating. And I'm just sitting there and finally I think I set an Olympic record jumping straight backwards and out of this shed. I run and get my shotgun and I come back. And I shot and killed the snake, and that should happen to every poisonous snake in the world. But it was just too much. It was just that thing that just sets you off. And then right after that, the next day or 3 days later, I don't remember, but I'm riding in the truck with my son, and I'm listening to talk radio, and on the station they give us that poll that we all hate. It says 85% of us disapprove of the job Congress is doing, yet 95% of all incumbents get reelected. And I just went off. Something I don't normally do, that I just, flipped that bit, and I just went off. And my son was sitting there, and I kind of remember he kind of looked at me, and he just very flippantly said, "Hey, Dad, you're supposed to be a smart guy. You tell us not to complain about stuff. Why don't you go fix it?" And what I was complaining about, right, was this massive government that was failing, the career politicians and everything there. And I said, he's right. Why are we complaining about it? Why don't we fix it? And I started to think, I'm a computer guy. I'm not a political guy at all. I've got a degree in computer science from the University of Texas. I've worked on the KH-11 spy satellite. I helped build the first credit card reader in the gas pump system. I worked over at Dell Computer for a dozen years where we kind of changed the way you buy and build and sell computers. And I'm thinking, why don't we fix this? Why do we sit here and put up with this? Now, the other thing that was going on in my life was that book that lady gave me, remember, The Brilliant Solution. After I read that book, a topic I had no interest in whatsoever, it just kind of empowered me, if you will. And I'm a weird guy in many, many ways, and when I get onto something, I get onto something. So after I read that book, I went and read Thomas Paine's Common Sense, and I went and read Franklin's biography, and I read the Federalist Papers, and the 5,000-Year Leap, and Tocqueville's Democracy in America, and all these great books. And I'm starting to consume these things, and I'm reading these things. And I remember laying in bed one night, and it was 3:30 or 5:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting there, and my son's issued this challenge, and I remember I'm staring at this rattlesnake, and it reminded me of a time when I was 23 years old. I'd been hunting in the hills of Texas. I had my rifle, as all good Texan boys do, kind of walking through the hills, and I'd just come over this log, and my leg was up, and I'm going downhill and forward, and right in front of me had been the biggest water rattlesnake you've ever seen in your life. And the tail had gone off, and this monster-sized head had come up, and this other monster-sized head. So I'm sitting there, and I'm going forward, and there's no way in the world I'm not going to take that step. And it happened so quick, I swung my rifle. To this day, I don't remember switching from safety to fire. But right as I stepped down, I shot, squeezed the trigger, and I killed what turned out to be two mating rattlesnakes. One of them 5'9", one of them 5'6", bigger around than your arm. But the split second before I stepped, I had shot and killed those two snakes. And when I was sitting there laying in bed and I'm thinking about this, and those snakes and everything about that reminded me of exactly where we are in this country. We can see what's about to happen. We can see this deficit. We can see all of the failures going on, and we know we don't want to take that next step. And if we do, it's going to be terribly painful, maybe not fatal, but we don't want to take that step. So I'm laying in bed, and all this crazy stuff's going through my mind, and I've been reading these books, and I'm thinking of these snakes and these two, and one of the quotes that I read jumps out at me. It was from Samuel Adams in 1776. He said, "If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats in our government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin." And I said, that's where we are. The vain and aspiring men and women have taken over our government. And if we go down this path any further, we're about to see the destruction of the greatest country the world has ever known. You cannot amass a debt like this. You can't go through what we're doing and just walk out of this thing unscathed. But what he said was, we, the experienced patriots, right? It's our duty to prevent its ruin. But how? And it comes to me. Our founding fathers were brilliant people. They created the greatest form of government because they knew this day would come. They gave us the executive branch, and they gave us the judiciary, but the legislative branch, two bodies, the Senate, a third of the seats come up for vote every 2 years, but the House, where every single vote comes up, every single seat comes up for vote every 2 years. And they created the government in this exact form so that when this day came, when the vain and aspiring men had taken over and our country was at risk of ruin, we, the experienced patriots, could prevent it. We could go in and we could take out every one of these politicians one day, one election. All we have to do is make it happen. So now I sit here and say, just as I was about to step on those mating rattlesnakes, right before it was too late, and as I was able to shoot and kill those snakes before they did incredible damage to me, and I'm not proposing we shoot the politicians, let me be very clear. But just as I was able to do that, that is what our founding fathers intended. One day, one election, we could go take out every one of these politicians. They built the system so we could make this happen if we would just act.